Anyway, that's kind of the background. Am I missing anything? The panelists, as they were, are the green-shirted freshmen. This is Heidi, my wife, and she's basically the glue at the center of all the conference planning. She's, the face of Shmoocon to a lot of our the hotel and everything else, and she's really the person that does all this. She gets asked questions of like, how do you deal with Bruce spending all this time planning the con and doing all that kind of stuff? And she's like, no. You got that all wrong. All I do is sling some code periodically and make random phone calls and just, get her coffee and keep her fed. But she does all the real heavy lifting at the center of it. John Callis, Shmoo Manchu, he's been around for a long time in the Shmoo Group. He's even got a little badge to prove it. John provides a lot of the graybeard sage advice that we need. He was on the speaker selection committee. What? Late night phone calls from Heidi as she's freaking out and I'm not doing anything to help her. And Todd Nagengast on the end. Todd's a firm believer that doesn't matter if it's solid state, you can do anything you want it, launch it to the moon, bounce it off the floor, it'll still work. There's a big story behind that, but yeah, the ball, it's solid state, see, it didn't break. Todd once, just for purposes of demonstration, dropped a $50,000 solid-state device on the floor from the tabletop level just to prove, well, since it's solid-state and got no moving parts, it can't possibly break. Boom! Anyway, Todd was responsible for our vendor. He was the point of contact for the vendors this year and making sure vendor sign-ups happened, and we got the vendors their tickets and that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do here is go through all the gory details and kind of pseudo-compartmentalized ways of kind of the free-form thing that Heidi and I put together in the last hour. So this may not make an abundance amount of sense, but I encourage you to please ask questions, provide comments as we go through this, because I don't want this just to be a fire hose of info from us to you. Feel free to speak up whenever y'all feel necessary, and then nods. All right, keep on going. All right, so the first thing, the first couple years, this was ad hoc, if you will, from an organizational perspective. The first year just flew by the seat of our pants without any kind of formal legal entity behind us. Last year, we actually stood up Shmoocon Logistics LLC, and the con last year was run under that guise, but it was basically the first transaction that occurred with that LLC. Prior to that, we've been using other people's, like private LLCs that had broad enough scope to deal with this. And what? It was Beetle. Beetle's personal LLC that covered us in the middle of the year. This year, actually, everything was done under Shmoocon Logistics, which honestly is nice because you can tell the vendors to write checks out to things that aren't like Heidi Potter. You can please write a $2,500 check to me personally. It's okay. It'll go to the right place. We're not going to run away to Tijuana with all your money. The way that it's structured, though, from an LLC perspective, so the Shmoo Group consists of about 35-ish people, 25 or so active members. The Shmoocon planning list is probably 40 odd folks, 40 volunteers, give or take, with many of them are very active as well. We didn't, however, as much as the Shmoo Group is kind of this consensus building, sometimes overly love-in type situation where we all sit around and talk about things, we didn't want the legal entity to be encumbered by that kind of thing. So there's only a couple people that are actually on the LLC. However, the LLC doesn't necessarily make all the decisions. We still kind of make the decisions as a group and execute the con as a group. So it's not like this is the organizational entity. It's just a legal entity that we had to create to, if someone wants to sue us into oblivion, at least they can start with that and then come to us personally rather than just starting with us personally. So we created the LLC online through corporations.com or some nonsense. It was literally like, send us $100, we'll file all your paperwork, be done. We're incorporated in Maryland. Actually, we did spend a little bit of time trying to figure out the ins and outs of, well, the Shmoo Group and the people that are going to be on the board live all over the country. It's executed in D.C., and everyone says incorporate in Delaware. And after we talked to enough lawyers, and no one had a good answer of anything, why you'd want to do left, right, or center, we decided to hell with it. Heidi and I live in Maryland. We're going to incorporate in Maryland. That way we can deal with things locally. So we didn't feel we were going to be pushing enough money and transactions around to really warrant being a Delaware corporation. Organizational structure. So this is kind of interesting. We started planning this really far in advance. And I think, what? Heidi starts planning this very far in advance. Did you say Monday? Monday, yes. We'll be starting Shmoocon 08 on Monday. It literally is like an all year round activity for planning this. And this year in particular, I felt really happy that coming into the week before the con, I didn't feel like we were wondering what the hell was going to happen and where everything was and where all the swag was and who was going to do what. We had a pretty good handle on things. And honestly, most of it is all planned via email and not big structured emails or just random things. There's enough people in the mix that if somebody gets busy, somebody else is picking up the ball and making something else happen. So there's no IRC chats, there's no conference calls, none of that. Every once in a while there might be something where we get 2 or 3 people on the phone just to jam on something, or maybe like an IM session. But honestly, most everything for this conference was planned via email, which is great because then when you're arguing with each other, you can go back and point at a thread that happened 4 months ago and say, see, we talked about this 4 months ago. So we have a variety of lists. It's all mailman lists running on our primary server. There's the main Shmoo Group list that we do some of the planning on, but there's also a Shmoocon planning list that has all our volunteers on it. There's a list for the labs folks, there's a list for arcade, etc. So we just, every time we kind of have a new organizational unit, we just stand up a new mailman list, throw a bunch of people on it, and say, go forth and procreate. They figure everything out. Probably the one big thing is, I think we've been really lucky that we've, not only have we grown, but we've always kind of had, at least from the first year going forward, there's always been a reserve of capital to help seed the next year. And so as people dream up new ideas and come forward, like the labs happened this year, we had money put away that we were able to say, okay, we can help fund that. You guys go figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, let us know what you need, and we'll take care of getting it for you. In this case, it was a couple of servers like 2.5 weeks before the conference, but they told us, and so we were able to get it for them. But it really is, there, we have this kind of central entity that at least is able to, take care of all those things. So as words to those in the audience, if you're looking to become involved in Shmoocon and you've got an idea on a project or something you think would be cool, come to us. We'll do whatever we can within our power to help get you going. Some of the contests this year, someone wrote all the code, but we supply the prizes, we supply all the PR, we take care of all that kind of stuff. So we very much try to say, look, we've got capital reserves, we've got a whole group of people with a lot of access to a lot of resources. If you got a neat idea, we'll help get it going for you. So we're kind of like a VC for crazy HackerCon ideas. Haha, there's a tagline for you. And honestly, the tempo of the planning was never very rushed, but since we started so long ago, like I said, coming into this week, we were way out in front of where we needed to be. I mean, we were really well planned. People feel, execution-wise, besides the registration hiccup, were there any other problems that you guys had this week with how things at least were executed? Man, that's awesome. Stunned silence on that one. Holy shit, I couldn't ask for that better. I'm being recorded and trying not to swear. That's what I'm giving up for Lent, is swearing on national television. So. The Valium does wonders for the F-bomb.
Prepackaged bags.
What?
Prepackaged bags.
Prepackaged bags, yeah. Yeah, the one thing that definitely took a little bit of time was this, the stuffing of the bags. Last year, 4 people stuffed the bags in 3 hours, about 800 bags or so. And this year we had about 8 or 9 people, 15 total, 9 hours. The bags also took up 5 times the space of last year's bags. Last year's bags, for those that were here, was just basically 2 pieces of canvas sewed together with some string wrapped around them, and they really didn't take up that much space. These, because of the hard bottom, they shipped from China, they were printed in California, and then driven across country in a truck on pallets. And in these boxes you got, they were about 1 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot. They could only fit 18 bags, and we had 1,200 bags delivered. So for those that didn't see it, that hallway out here was just like one big pile of bag right before registration. There was just bags freaking everywhere. Plus our vendors actually had a lot more stuff for us to put in the bags this year, and so that made it a little bit more challenging, and some people have paper cut scars to show for it. It was pretty brutal. Anyway, that was, and there were a couple other little hiccups. Every year we run into things when we execute, like, oops, we forgot to assign somebody this job. A couple years ago it was AV. Like, I remember walking into one of the rooms, and it was like half an hour before the conference was going to get going, and I've been hanging out at the registration desk, and registration was going great, and it came downstairs, just like, there's no projectors. None of the projectors are hooked up, and I'm like, okay, we got half an hour until the conference starts, and there's not a single projector attached anywhere. Shit. And so we started running around and attaching projectors, and that's when we realized we didn't have an AV guy. This year we realized we didn't have somebody responsible for setting up the registration clients, those workstations we have out there. And so that was kind of a last minute, like, hey, where are all the Mac Minis? oops, and we had to go get them online, and that's where we got help from Vicky and Steve, that came out from the labs and helped us out. Might as well talk a little bit. I don't think we have a registration system in here. Talk about ticket sale, but not the registration system. Registration system is basically you get those barcodes in the mail, and what ends up happening is we've got these what do you call them? Scanners, barcode scanners. Thank you. That apparently are just USB keyboard devices that look like barcode scanners. And so when you click something underneath it, all it does is read that barcode and puts it into like a text window, just like you typed it in. Which is pretty neat. And then we have we have these Mac Minis, which are great for storage. So a lot of the gear that we have, I have to store at my house. So storing Mac Minis isn't so bad because they're little tiny boxes. If I have to store 3 Tower PCs, I'm going to get pretty ticked off. So we got these Mac Minis, and all they are is just a web interface to a back-end registration server that's got the database of all the people that registered. So you just scan the thing underneath it, it types the thing automatically, hit submit, it does the lookup, you click the registered button, you hand in the bag, and you go on to the next one. So it actually goes really quickly, and that's code that I think John Mattia wrote originally, and we've been running that now for all 3 years, right? 2 years, and that goes fantastically. We also, I'll get into this later, but the shopping cart this year was brand new. Kaz helped out, and he basically did get that all set up and functional. And that all dumped out the data that then the registration system picks up. If you're going to do something like this, have an easy registration process, because nothing worse than going to a conference and standing in line for like forever and a day. At least the DEF CON model has the unique attribute that you show up with a C note and you hand it to them and they hand you a badge. And in theory, that doesn't take very long, right? But sometimes it can, if you go to Black Hat, they've got a pretty good process of getting through there, but sometimes you hit a hiccup and it really sucks. The one thing we have here is we're not giving you customized badges. We're not doing anything like that. Everyone gets the same badge. Everyone gets the same swag. Just give us the barcode, scan, and go. And I think it worked out pretty well this year. Even though
I was told when I got the registration that my barcode was actually number 2.
Number 2?
Yeah. Were they issued serially? Is that
no? Or the barcodes are a UUID.
Yeah.
The serial number in the database is based on the random number that was generated. So barcode is 16 bytes. So yours happened to be the first 2 bytes of your barcode were 0.
Oh.
Random number generated.
Question in the back.
I'd just throw out a comment. I was just involved in a 500-person event, not technical. Your decision not to tie name tags to it, I was astounded how fast once things got rolling, not having to match people up. At first it was like, what, no name tags? I'm a newbie in case you can't. But wow, that's beautiful. Why did I stand in front of 500 drunks for a weekend trying to match their names that they didn't know?
First comment, love the name badges. I think they'll be useful in the future. Second one is, I don't know how many people ran into issues with getting the barcodes and just email delivery and spam filters and stuff. Because I had problems, but fortunately I printed out my receipt, so I had all the numbers.
Guys?
There were about 7 domains that rejected mail from our mail server. AOL was the primary one.
We don't want them AOL.
Be here.
Yeah, talk to me later.
Right.
We don't want
and then, the text form that I generated to send out, I kind of forgot to change the MIME type from text plain to image PNG. So anybody that was using Outlook or Thunderbird couldn't view the PNG, which is one of the reasons we made the barcode generation available online.
Yeah, the barcode generation was kind of in response to that. So, and last year we set out barcodes that you couldn't print on inkjets. You had to print them on laser printers, then had to issue them all again. So next year we'll probably get the barcodes all figured out straight and proper. So it's funny because like our primary Shmoo mail server deals with, I don't know how many, 10, 20,000 messages a day at least. I mean, 100. Yeah, what? Yeah, that's just him. I mean, this thing, so what do you think I deals with on a daily basis? 500,000, 250,000? Yeah, so like 250,000, 500,000, emails. It runs major lists and things like that, and yet, these huge ISPs still, because of the inability for them to filter spam, treat us like a bunch of, convicts and don't allow our mail through. I have a holy war with anti-spam software and doing it on like these blacklists.
There are 5 domains that people tried to register from that couldn't get through for our mail server because we were marked as a hacker group.
Oh, yes. Also, some proxies, some web proxies don't let you get to our site because we're marked as a
websites. Cough.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're marked as a hacker group as well. So clearly,
the best part about that though is that Shmoocon.org is registered through WebSense as a hacker group. Defcon.org gets through. 2600.com gets through. But Shmoocon.org is blocked.
We noted that. The comment was that defcon.org and others are not hackers, but we are. We were thinking that we were going to use this in our advertising. That we're much studlier than them because we're blocked by WebSense.
So the venue this year was obviously different, and so was the date. So we've had the amazing floating date of Shmoocon for the last 3 years. Last year we had it in January, and that was driven by hotel availability. This year we had some options, either early January or late March. Last year in early January, we basically, like the Potters, we did not have Christmas. Like we kind of didn't go anywhere. We had a tree, but it was surrounded by Shmoocon swag. It's like, hey, another bag! Got 800 of these, great. So we decided to push it so it didn't conflict with our child's birthday. So this is a little bit of a selfish act, but I figured y'all could deal with it, and clearly enough people dealt with it that we filled the place. So
I like it a lot better.
it was cold, man. Like I was worried of people's welfare leaving fur. Like you get drunk people in Northeast DC in a warehouse district trying to flag a cab, and these girls in these little tiny skirts roaming around, and I'm like, man, people are gonna freeze to death.
Next year's gonna be fun too. I don't
Do you get that a lot?
Two children, I can prove that.
Are they yours?
Wow. All right, so we're going to continue.
Talk about a cold venue.
Yeah, this is. Thank God we have a buff. What? So dates for next year?
It's an election.
It's an election year, so we've got a couple of things that we're trying to figure out. One, we think we got to figure out size for next year, and then we got to figure out location. And this hotel has been good to us, and they continue to be better to us as we go on. But the question becomes, in 2008 in Washington D.C., if we say we do 1,500 or however many people, what's available, what can they do here? We can occupy the space back behind here, the other convention floor that they have, and spread into that and blow this into one big room and probably handle that. But they only have like a handful of weekends where they're going to be able to accommodate us. I think one of them actually is around this time next year.
Around the same time as Christmas,
Early February. Yeah, so we got to figure it out.
Yeah, Super Bowl weekend I thought was a great thing. We did the first one then. That was really great.
Yeah, it actually worked out because then you could all like go. Everyone made their own little Super Bowl parties, and that was great. Yeah.
Do we pick a hotel next year that we could smoke?
Well, you can't smoke anywhere inside DC.
Right. We'd have to.
Anywhere in DC?
No, if you went to the bars last night, you can't smoke in the bars unless they've been grandfathered in as like a cigar bar. And you can't. DC is now a non-smoking city, and Marriott's worldwide. You can't smoke in at all.
That's
right.
So.
Move it up to New York.
I thought New York
You
was
can't
not
smoke in New York either.
Yeah. Do you actually smoke, sir? I mean, you don't people have the laws.
There's places that you can go to. There's bars you can smoke in and stuff like that. You just gotta know where to go.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure that there are places you can smoke here.
He hacks and coughs.
Go ahead.
Have you like been Shmoocon out to other hotels? All right.
Yeah, we've been in contact with other places, and we're looking at potentially Baltimore as a venue as well. We could. I'm sorry. Wow. Look, I'm.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I caught one, I swear. Yay, left-handed catch, thank you. Left-handed throw, perfect. Baltimore, Inner Harbor, Baltimore is fantastic. You just don't want to go more than 2 blocks away from, unless two people from Baltimore that haven't been shot. Anyway, how was the space this year? I mean, overall people liked it?
The only thing I would say is the knock is too small.
More doors, knock's too small.
Open the bar on Sunday morning. pillars?
Yeah, the pillars, you know, we spent some time with the hotel trying to figure out how to arrange the rooms given the space. And again, this is the first year they've actually had this space available for us in this current trim. Until last year, it wasn't really available to partition out like this. And whenever we're in the basement here at the Wardman, we're going to have to deal with the pillars. And that's why we put more projectors. We actually invested in 3 more projectors this year, just so we could have more screens for people to at least see the screens, even though if you're sitting behind, you can't see the person. That's kind of a horse's butt. Yeah, this one we're not using at the moment because that projector, one of the problems we have is these projectors are now far enough apart that we're getting like loss of the signal, and so that one over there finally just gave up, like it wouldn't display like half the screen, so we just pulled it for the day. What?
Yeah, there was no green coming out of that,
wow.
So it's a really nice magenta.
Yeah, it just looked horrible.
So what are the dates for next year, possibly?
Possibly early February. We don't know yet. We still got to figure it out. Go ahead.
A couple of updates. I personally found this weekend, you know, like this time frame to be really awesome. Traveling down here last year in early January, besides you guys not having Christmas, it sucked. You know, because I ended up, I guess Reagan National was closed for was fogged in or something.
Yeah.
I ended up stuck in Providence at the airport for like 8 hours. So.
Yeah, you know, I think the early winter stuff is hard, and I think this early spring thing kind of
But
works
you can
out
have
better.
weather anytime.
One of the things we have to deal with is we participate in a broader community of security conferences, right? I mean, there are other conferences that go on throughout the year that are good. You know, you got Security Opus and Layer 1, and there's Hope, and there's RSA, which is clearly a totally different animal, but we have to contend with it. And so we have to be very cognizant of not conflicting with other conferences, because we don't want to negatively impact others that are our peers, but we also don't want to be negatively impacted by the 800-pound gorillas in the room that we know we're going to lose people to. Because it's not that we're trying to have you know, an attendance contest to see who can have more. It's more that we know we have people that are going to want to go to RSA and going to want to come here, and so we want to try to allow them the opportunity to attend both. So.
One of the things we did with another group was we had the attendees submit dates like that they were going to all these different conferences, and not as a rule or a Bible, but at least, so if we, you know, have a date that conflicts with this, we only lose 30 people, whereas with this date, we lose 100 people.
You can look that
Yeah,
up.
I'll have everyone email you. It'll be 1,000 emails to you. And hopefully your AOL account will stop them all. So.
I understand. I heard that RSA is moving to April.
It is.
So your February thing would not conflict with RSA.
Yeah. So we'll figure it out, and there'll be more info, and we'll try to have info online as early as possible about that, even if we don't have, like, say, the speakers in time or anything like that. It was amazing. I mean, we sold out the con, we didn't have the speaker list up, so I really appreciate the leap of faith that everyone's taken here to come here. So space, like I said, you know, from a population size, I think, you know, personally, we'll, I mean, we've talked about growing a little bit. We don't want to become too big. I think people still feel that this is cozy, that you can still have 1,000 of your closest friends and feel comfortable with it. But obviously, these rooms got really tight in some of the talks because we had to stack them in so there wasn't a lot of alleys between the chairs, so it was really difficult, I think, to get in and out. And we want to not have that problem next year. As we'll see when we get to the finance section, we do have the ability to actually increase in size because we made out pretty well in the finance this year. So.
What about timing between the lectures? It seems that, you know, one ends right on the cusp, and you're running across, and no chance.
Yeah, and I had setup issues because we didn't have enough time to get my stuff set up.
Well,
Because of our previous talk, everybody ran over a little bit.
we'll work on discipline better for next year.
Wouldn't have been so bad if the bathrooms weren't upstairs. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
other problem.
Yeah.
The bathrooms upstairs and no time
Yeah.
between talks. It's a hell of a race.
I've been here since 10. I understand the no bathroom break problem.
We get some porta potties.
You know what I don't want at a hacker convention? Porta potties. Indoor porta potties. Look what I can do.
Yeah, really.
Smooth catheter.
The poo jokes are going to have to end here.
Yeah, where's the moose poop?
Where's the moose poop? Yeah, I'm not wearing my moose poop earrings this year. So the speaker selection, Ronnie, you want to come up and I'll give you a few minutes to talk about that? This is Ronnie. He was the chair for the speaker selection process, and he did a fantastic.
Which means I got to freak out while you guys all bought the tickets before we had the list done. Pressure? No pressure at all. Not at all. Not at all. So last year we had fewer speakers and we had a smaller thing. This year we tried to switch to OpenConf. We didn't actually get it turned on until after the submission started, which means we didn't actually use the part of the OpenConf system where you had the speakers put their own entries in. So I had to hand enter everything, which was a little painful. OpenConf is the only open source conference submission management tool, and it's designed for academic conferences. So we had to bend the tool a little bit. It's still useful to use. I wish it was better. It kind of sucks, but it's the only one, and it's open source, so I refuse to bitch at them. If I could figure out how to help them, and it's in PHP, God help me. Yeah, it was inside a triple containment vessel, and we had to reach in with Waldos to touch it and all that kind of stuff, because we didn't really want that out in the net. So we had over 100 submissions. We had the full spectrum for a mature conference. We had the lame-ass advertisement-grade talks that weren't worth anything, all the way up to, we're sorry, we didn't accept the talk about sex toys and USB connectors and the internet and IP-enabled, and we tried really hard to really review that with fair things, So
I voted must accept on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please send samples.
I have to say that, yeah, you have to put proof of concept
Please
required.
resubmit that one.
Yeah, resubmit that.
Interoperable implementations.
Yeah, interoperable. Yeah, and if you do the think outside the box, I mean, if we have people talking about guns and lockpicks and stuff like that, USB-enabled sex toys is so in range. I did think that maybe what we should do as a giveaway is have a 3-ounce clear plastic bottle that says security lube on the side. So you can put that next to your security pixie dust in your cube back in your office. Anyway, lots of submissions. We had submissions from people who hadn't ever submitted a talk before. We're trying to get more and more of that. And let's see, we had the usual suspects submitting. We had people we'd never heard of. We had various ranges. People were trying to do actual build-it stuff where there was code. There were some projects that didn't make it because they didn't get their projects done in time. We're going to need more submissions next year. To keep the quality going, we need to have the yield right. So we selected vaguely 35 of the 100, because that's the way sort of we got about 35 slots is the way this works out. So we need more speakers. People who haven't given a talk before, please figure out how to submit. And the other thing is we keep selling out, and there are other conferences around here. There's Noticon, there's something in North Carolina, there's Freaknik, there's Inner Zone, Outer Zone, whatever. There's the stuff in New York. There's lots of things in the East Coast, and if anybody submitted here and didn't get in, they should submit somewhere else, because these people are having good ideas. We just had to mix it all together. Next year we'll probably do OpenConf, but full on, so people will enter them themselves, and I don't have to go into that format. We had a massive theology debate about the format of the submission, and since many of us have heard of JavaScript and its completely safe mechanisms used inside PDFs and QuickTime and things like that, we kindly decided that we degenerated down to we want plain text 7-bit ASCII submissions, 74 characters per line or less, because everybody's scared that somebody's going to do a submission which is going to own my machine when I read it. So we may actually get down to that, which is interesting because there's an arms race about submissions these days. People want to put in PowerPoint slides and the audio track and the movie trailer and all that stuff. So anyway, more submissions next year. The call for papers, we will probably attempt to do it by DEF CON again, even though that's not necessarily the right 6-month point. Yeah.
I know that there's an opportunity for exploiting this, but can you try and put some type of mechanism in place for those that do submit who are not accepted? Because of the way the dates fell, if you submitted and were not accepted, you might not have even gotten a ticket. And I really wanted to come to the conference.
If you submitted and you were not accepted, you got an email that you were supposed to have gotten an email that said you got on the $75 ticket list.
Well, I didn't know that because I got accepted, so I.
Okay, yeah. So as soon as we figured out we were going to sellout mode, we sent an email to everybody, which I managed to not get the text perfect. Yeah. So it sounded like I rejected everybody, but it didn't. So we'll get that better next time. Now we know.
Yeah, that's what I said, because then everyone just can submit.
And we do have 12 Shmoo class human anomaly detectors on the submission, so if you try to DOS the system, we'll probably catch it.
I mean, obviously, if we get 5,000 submissions, then we can't give you a guaranteed ticket for a non-submitted one.
Yeah. You all set? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a general. Oh, sorry. Well, it's kind of a gentleman's agreement, I think. If you tried hard, we'll make sure. And I think last year we kind of got burned on this. We were in full-blown, got to continue to rate the submissions and get everything else done, and then it got to be a couple weeks before the con, and there was kind of a public explosion where one speaker didn't get in, and we had a little problem, but everything worked out in the end, and we were like, well, we got to deal with it, but we don't want this land rush. So I think as long as you're not, it was that Cybernetics conference in Orlando where you can just make up words and send it in, they accept it and referee it into their journal. As long as you don't have something that looks like it's going for the Cybernetics conference, we'll be able to accommodate you. So.
Yeah, the retread problem. The other thing we've been trying to do better is, people submit the same talks 15 times, and we've been trying to have some judicious, practical rules. So we assume that if you bothered to get your fanny here, that like going to TourCon on the other coast would probably be not trivial for you. So a talk that got accepted at TourCon is perfectly reasonable to submit to Shmoocon because they're opposite coasts. So we don't consider that a gratuitous retread. So we were trying to allow people to submit things they had done before because they have continuing projects and continuing work. On the other hand, we really wanted to get unique stuff so that's new and fresh and different, and all these zillions of people who buy tickets can get something good to see.
All right, I'm going to sally forth or continue on because we only got about 20 more minutes, so we can take questions at the end if we still have time. So, and on to Rodney's point about other conferences in the East Coast, people say, oh, you're the only East Coast security conference, which is total bullshit. There's Nauticon, there's Freaknik, there's Outer Zone, there's Hope, there's all kinds of venues out there. If you're into this kind of thing and you got spare weekends, there's lots of places to go to have a good time. If you want to submit other places. They have great talks as well. So, by all means, we're not trying to be the big guys and whatever. We want to participate. We want everybody to go have a good time and grow. So, so here's the ticket sales breakdown. We had 953 barcodes, give or take, given out. 851 checked in. So that's actually a fair bit of loss in the system from people that checked in and people that bought. 50 speakers, give or take, 50 staff. So all in all, about 1,000 people in attendance, which is interesting because we were a little worried about blowing the doors off at about 1,200, which we had set at our maximum cap, and I think we were pretty conservative on the ticket release because we also thought, we're going to allow the speakers to buy their way in at $75, but I think a lot of the speakers had already bought tickets preparing for maybe not getting in or whatever. So we only had how many speakers? Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 speakers that 10, whatever, speakers who bought tickets after, they didn't, their talks didn't get in, and we were expecting basically 100% participation, so we thought we'd get 70 or 80 speakers who would be asking for tickets after the fact, so that kind of changed the calculus. But by that point, that's February, our last ticket sales had closed, and the eBay secondary market had already started, so it's not like in good faith we could then go, oh, here's another, 100 tickets on the market, because then a whole bunch of people that paid, 300 some odd bucks on eBay would be coming with pitchforks, being you jackasses sold a bunch of tickets, and blah, blah. Yeah, there are lots of bags for sale because we did plan for the whole deal.
What was the
high eBay was 400, I think. 4 something or other, and the low water mark was 80, which I thought was fantastic. Sales model, we kind of went over this at the kickoff. No more PayPal. That was driven partially or totally by we couldn't take international, we couldn't take government credit cards via PayPal. And so for all the government folks, we were basically standing our heads and closing one eye and trying to make everything happen right in order to get those to go through. So this year we've got our own merchant account, and we did it all the credit card processing ourselves. Again, there's 3 rounds, 3 sales, sold out obviously a lot faster than we thought. Was not our intent. We're not trying to make this difficult. We're not trying to make it a race, but that's the way it worked out. The tiered model, we had a whole bunch of people the last few years come up to us and say, this is awesome, this is worth so much more, let us pay as much as we can so that we can get in. And we say, well, that's great, but we've got a whole bunch of people, we got students and people just getting started in their career, and we want to make it accessible to them, so we're going to continue to have this tiered model. So now the question is, does this tier model continue to work in the face of it just being a lightning round of purchasing, or do we look at going to a flat fee? And honestly, I think that's something for us to have to work some of the budgetary considerations out. But now that we actually are doing it the way that we're doing, we can budget versus, like I said, when we had the time-delimited ticket sales before, we couldn't budget. So at least now we have the opportunity to actually figure this out. I think what you'll see from the money workup is we did very well this year. I don't have to mortgage my house or anything like that to pay for the bar tab last night. But we still need to be careful that we don't get too tight. Because as we grow, the challenge is if we grow to say 1,500 people, that the risk involved personally becomes a lot greater. If something goes wrong, where people don't show up or something happens, suddenly it's not just a couple $1,000s that have to be found. It's $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 that have to be found. That's a big chunk of change to have to track down in short order to pay off the hotel or whatever else.
Well, I personally like the flat fee idea, but I'm more curious about why 3 rounds of sales instead of just here's when they go on sale until they're done.
I think the concern there was that not everybody was looking all the time for when the tickets were going to go on sale, so we released them all in the beginning. And first of all, if anything went wrong and they all went, that we'd have to deal with that, and there'd be a whole bunch of barcodes out in the wild.
And if you knew it was a quote, it would spell out
We hoped we would sell out, and we didn't want to make it so that if things went on sale January 1st, that here it is January 2nd. You know, you were off doing family holiday things, and I'm terribly sorry, but there are no more tickets, and you got to find a scalper.
Yeah, but it's like 3 months of notice, though, would you be able to cover that?
It did seem confusing, and I think there were some issues of, you know, what's available to people, like, you know, hey, is my $75 ticket get me less than my $150 ticket? No, that's not the case. They're all the same. Everyone got the same red badge. And again, it was, we honestly thought that December sale would carry tickets over into January, like no problem. I mean, we're trying to stage it so that if something did happen and a lot of people wanted tickets, that you had multiple opportunities to get to them, and it wasn't like 3 days and everything was gone, you can't go to Shmoocon this year. So it just turned out it was 3 days, everything was gone, you can't go to Shmoocon, but 3 days were 3 months apart. So, in the blue t-shirt. Or, I'm sorry, the hand was attached to the wrong body.
Thought about putting tickets on sale before the Christmas shopping season?
Well, the December 1st, oh yeah, December 1st I guess is technically in the Christmas shopping season. Yeah, it does kind of conflict that way, and I think we're obviously going to play with it, and that's something to consider. Well, and one of the things that happened is we had a delay in getting our merchant account set up. We were trying to have sales online in November, I guess.
Right, so we were also, there was a contract.
Yeah, and so when we set up a merchant account, when you come to a merchant account, you get set up based on your risk, how much fraud you think that's going to be committed through that, and also how much sales you're going to have. That's how much money they decide to take. And we basically say, we're going to sell $100,000 worth of tickets over the course of, you know, a month or two, and then we're not going to do anything again for 10 months. And these merchant card services people are like, well, that's not very exciting. Like, and further, you're not actually selling a physical product, so the chance of fraud is reasonably high, and we don't know who the hell you are. So we had to jump through a lot of hoops about, here's a refund policy, and here's all this other stuff in order to get the merchant account set up properly.
It'll be easier for us to be flexible next year because we have the merchant account now.
Yeah, much easier. We can just, and we have the code, you know, Kaz has got all the code up. We can just turn it on now whenever we want. So I think we acquired a great deal of capability this year to be able to make the registration process go much smoother. I'll take one more on this and we got to go on.
One thing is I applaud getting rid of PayPal, even though through no choice of my own I actually have a PayPal account this year. Unlike last year, I had to jump through all sorts of hoops to get that to happen. But if you want to do a student or academic discount to get in, I say go ahead and do it and get away from the whole land rush model. I don't think that, you know, you could have a student/academic/newbie thing, and if you just do a different colored badge for people who paid that, nobody who is senior enough in the industry to be able to afford the full fare is going to do that anyway.
So you're saying like a scarlet A on their chest, so scarlet N.
I like the scarlet N, yeah.
What, do you want another discount if we're popping your con cherry?
On that note, I'm going to keep on trucking because I got some more slides. So this is the in money in slide. This is what we took in this year. We had about 13K left over from last year. We had about 20,000 in sponsorship. The sponsorship was very good this year. Had about 110,000 in ticket sales. So the total funds was 43,000, which is about 100,000 more than Shmoocon won. So yeah, you're pointing. Okay, nothing. So that's basically it. That's all our sources of revenue. The sponsorship, we didn't really think we would get that much, and when we budgeted, we didn't plan on getting the sponsorship, but it was nice because every time we get a new sponsor, we thought, hey, there's a little bit more we can do safely. So that kind of provided us our padding. Here's the egress of the Capitol. Hotel space last year was about 25,000. We'll figure it'd be about 32,000 total. This pays for floor space. This pays for the screens. Pays for the microphones. Pays for all the chairs, all the tables. Every chair, every table, every tablecloth, all has a per day fee associated with it, right? So the more people we put down, we have to pay for one more seat on the floor. We have to pay for one more table somewhere. We have to pay for one more, you know, whatever. And so we think it's probably going to be 32. We had a, what was it, 500 room commitment this year with the hotel, and we hammered that about a month and a half ago. So for those that don't know, the way that these things work is you say, I want this much space, and the hotel and you then go through a negotiation process of name that tune, which is how many rooms do you think that your attendees will take, so that we'll basically knock money off of all of the stuff that you are trying to do here. So we could say, we just want to have this event, we don't want to dedicate any rooms in the hotel to it, and we would pay $100,000 for the space. But instead we say, we think we can sell 300 rooms, and they say, well, it'll cost you this much. And they say, we think we can do 500 rooms, it'll cost this much, and they keep knocking money off. 500 was kind of a conservative estimate. It's what they had available, basically, and we know that's what we sold last year as well, was 500. So we knew that we would be able to sell 500 rooms, and it allowed us to have kind of a consistent budgetary process. It's tough to go higher because then we start taking a risk. If we don't sell out, then our budget gets very flexible because then we start to have to pony up for every night that doesn't get registered against that block. We pay for out of pocket. So at $160 a night, if we say we got 500 rooms and we get $499, we pay $160. If we say 500 rooms, we sell 300, well, we're paying $32,000. So that's the way the hotel game works. Swag, we allocated ourselves $20,000 budget for that. That's the bags, the lanyards, the program. The program is really cool this year. You guys like the program?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Program quality every year has increased dramatically. Next year we're going to have your own personal assistant that will tell you what's next. They'll roam around with you. But we dedicated about $20,000 to that, and that's about exactly what we spent. About $5,000 in miscellaneous prizes for the Hacker Arcade and Hacker Halo and all that kind of thing. $10,000 in equipment. This was the projectors, the servers, some new servers we needed for the Shmoocon labs, and other odds and ends over the year, LCDs, that kind of thing. The party, approximately, we almost spelled elite. We were close. 13,667.13. We got all the right numbers except for those damn sixes. But that was what everyone drank last night at the bar, which was 3.5 hours of bar tab, which isn't bad. A little bit over 3.5 hours. Plus some miscellaneous associated with the party, so that was about $15,000 for that party last night. So when you go to, for those that go to Black Hat and go to that blowout thing that some of the vendors do, like in the basement at the Hard Rock, okay, so we rented a 3-story bar in Adams Morgan, DC last night and spent $15 grand on it. Those people must be spending $250,000 on that thing that they're doing in Vegas. It's amazing. Speaker honorariums, speakers get honorariums, $200 for the main speakers, and then for the one-track minds, they got $100. That was $8,000. Random miscellany, cost of doing business, office supplies, all that kind of crap adds up, and that was about $6 grand. Sponsorship, from us last year, we sponsor other conferences. We try to help other organizations out that come to us and say, hey, we have a need. We know Shmoocon's part of the community. Can you guys help us out? Sure. And we gave out about $5,000 last year. So total money expenditure out was about 104. So 43 and 104. When we go tally everything up, we should have about 40K rolling into next year, give or take. These are all pretty rough approximations. I give it a margin of error of about $5 grand, but that's where we stand. So which from my perspective is great. We've got a pretty good cushion coming into next year, and that's going to allow us a lot of flexibility based on your feedback about what we can do differently, okay? This is an outstanding situation for you, the community, to tell us what you think we need to do and what you want to see, or just crazy ideas you think would be interesting, because with money in the bank, we can be a little bit less risk averse, and we can start doing really interesting things. So please give us your ideas, give us your feedback. Again, this will be at the end, but there's feedback at shmoocon.org. There's the speaker feedback forums, and we'll also take free-form stuff. Todd on the end is the grand organizer of all the feedback that we get, and he'll collate and correlate and color and make it dance. But he'll help us understand what everyone's told us. So, sir. Oh, so as far as the archives and things like that, our hosting is actually free from a variety of providers. Our local hosting here in the DC area is from a company called AI.net. Our hosting in Boulder, Colorado is from a company, Indra's Net, and then in other locations, I'm not rightly sure who hosts.
Utah Application Network hosts a bunch of bandwidth for us. That's whenever you download a torrent, a fuck ton of bandwidth comes from that.
Oh yeah, that's one right here.
Thank you, Troy.
There we go. Thank you, Holt. I appreciate that. So we've been very fortunate, and I think this is something, over the years we've tried to be very cognizant of being, like I'm trying to say, we try to be honest brokers. We're not making money off this. We're trying to do the right thing, and we've been fortunate. We've got bandwidth suppliers that say, you guys are doing a good job. We appreciate it. Here's a 100 meg pipe into the back of this one-use server. Do what you got to do. When we released the Shmoocon videos last year, the primary server that was hosting those videos was pushing between 30 and 50 megabits a second for like 2 days. Okay.
Torrents right now are pushing about a megabit a second.
And yeah, I mean that's just standing still. And then after the con, we'll see a big spike up, and it's fantastic. So we get there's a lot of traffic that's donated, a lot of bandwidth that's donated, and we pay for the servers, we rack them, we babysit them, and our provider's been very generous in that. So we'll do the same this year. We'll have the talks online, both in slide form as well as the video form. Once Ted gets us all the video stuff, we'll get that ripped, hopefully a little bit quicker. Last year we killed 4 DVD drives ripping DVDs. I don't know if apparently it's some kind of aggressive maneuver that they need to do when you're ripping DVDs, but they killed 2 internal optical drives and laptops and 2 externals. It took us 4 months because we kept having DVD drive failures. The DVDs were good, you could still watch them, but the drives would just fail for some frickin' reason. So maybe it's Ted's copyright protection mechanism or something. So there's money left over, as I said, more flexibility. I guess I kind of covered all this. The network was mostly covered during the Shmoocon Labs BOF. I think Ken just ran back out. I thought I saw Terry floating around. There's Terry. I appreciate all the work that the network, the leads did, the attendees, the lab attendees. I really appreciate everything that went. At network availability, how was the network for folks?
Solid. Great.
Solid. Well, I'm not hearing a whole bunch of, well, it sucked, so that's a good start, because that's mostly what you get at security conferences, was it sucked.
Let's just say it was up, and then it'd go down, then it'd go up, then it'd go down. So you can kind of tell when someone was doing something.
Right. And I think in the BOF, they went over the attacks that you guys were seeing on the network and that kind of thing, so you can check that out. I don't want to rehash that, because I'm very long in the tooth right now. But I think it was successful from both a project perspective to get the attendees in to do the labs, and also from an execution, we still ended up with a good network. I had 2 big fears with the labs. 1, the attendees would think it's not worthwhile, and 2, oh my God, 36 hours is enough time to duct tape this network together, and I think they did a fantastic job considering the low water mark is APs and an internet connection, and we certainly went way above that this year for what was available in the lab, so that was great. Physical security, any of the security guys here, freshman's not around. We provided, again, our own security. This is kind of tradition within the hacker community. You do your own security at the conference to help kind of serve as a liaison between the craziness that is our attendees and the hotel staff to make sure that nothing too weird is going on. We have a very good relationship with hotel loss prevention and security. This year so far has been very uneventful. We've got a few more hours, so I encourage you, as much as the security kind of geek in me wants to say, go wreak some havoc, please don't. I'd like to be able to go home this year on time and not have to worry about anything. We also had, this year we had security guards that we rented from the hotel to be here after hours to babysit everything, make sure everything was okay, because there are clearly a lot of doors here to contend with, and our security staff wants to come party and things like that. It's a tough job to sit there and be the guys at the door all day and to be roaming around, fighting every little fire and trying to keep everybody in line. And at the end of the day, I want them to be able to go out and party just like everybody else. And I think this year, we did a good job of finding the balance between how long to be on shift and when you can actually go out and have some fun. So I encourage you, if you want to participate or you know people that want to participate, it's fun. You get to see the inner workings of the con, and you also, kind of get in and get to wear these fancy green shirts. So just as an FYI, again, to tell you where we're getting all our gear, radios were rented from a local vendor. Every year we kind of have this buy or rent thing, and we keep renting, and it still continues to work. I think the total bill this year was $600. A little over $600 for the radios, and yeah, so we get a couple, 20 radios or something like that, and people walk around with them and they can communicate for a pretty decent distance within the hotel. So. Oh, my arm's getting sore. Other gear, more projectors, these PowerEdge servers. Dell, I had the worst experience I've ever had with Dell when I ordered these servers. I basically ordered them, then went and looked at my previous orders, and it said I hadn't ordered anything. I called them up a day later, talked to some person in India who told me they had no record of my order. And then they forwarded me to Home Sales, and Home Sales says, I can't sell you servers. And they forward me somewhere else, and someone else says, I think you've ordered something. I see some stuff, but I'm not sure what it is. Well, is this the Matrix? Like, are you just staring at it and you're not able to read it properly? What the hell's the deal? And eventually I found someone who said, yeah, we have your order, they'll be there in 4 days, and sure enough, the server showed up. I still don't know anything about how they got there, but they did call and give us a follow-up. So we bought 3 more PowerEdge servers from Dell. Big fat memory, it was all good. Contests, so we had contests this year, more so than years past. One of the problems we had is we had the Shmooconography contest, which A, had a little typo in it. The 5 should have been a 6. We also had a bit of an arms race at the end when a couple of groups figured out the answer, and then they all had to figure out what the reporting mechanism was. So one group got in a cab and hauled ass down to the bar where they knew we were, and then another group found Rodney here locally and got to him. So you'll have to wait till the closing ceremonies to see how we deconflicted. But I think it was probably a statistical tie, and so we'll deal with it like that. How many people participated in any of the contests this year? Number of people. So we had Shmooconography, we had the Hacker Arcade, we had Hacker Halo, we had vendor contests going on as well. So there was an awful lot of things going on. Do you want to see more of that?
Always.
Always. Yeah. It's funny because I go to these conferences and I think there's a group of people who really enjoy the contests and do them, and I think there's another group of people that are like, what? They have no clue what's going on. And I think these conferences are what you make of it. And one thing that we're trying to help build here at Shmoocon, and why I'm saying if you have ideas, please come to us. We're trying to build a community where if you want to do a contest or participate or do whatever, you feel like you can come here and be comfortable doing it. And if you don't want to, it doesn't get in the way, you know? Yeah.
I'm kind of a night owl, and I was kind of surprised everything was over by 11 o'clock. But you had something like a lot later.
It wasn't over.
Kind of do like a lightning marathon. We talk up to like 7 or 8 in the morning.
It's 7 or 8 in the morning. I actually do think there may be room for other types of activities that run later into the evening, especially as we grow. When we were 400 or 500, it was kind of like it was hard to get critical mass, but I think that there may be opportunity to do something like that.
This was my first time, and I didn't think I was going to get any sleep, and I wound up sleeping.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And this is a problem.
Drink more.
Yeah, drink more. What? Oh yeah, Hacker Halo thoughts to Chris Compton, or you can just send them to me or send them to feedback. We'll get them to Chris if you had comments on Hacker Halo. What? I'm running out of time. So vendors and sponsors, I only got 2 more slides. We had more vendors than last year, which is fantastic. If any of the vendors are in the room, I really appreciate you showing up. You were definitely more involved this year than last, which was great. I saw, Applied Security, for instance, had a hacking contest going on, and there were other things going on. The vendors were much more engaged, and overall, I've seen this increased trend of involvement. I think if you go to DEF CON, there's clearly a community at DEF CON of all these people doing all these different things, and all these little sub projects spin out. And I'm not saying we're trying to be DEF CON Prime or DEF CON Double Prime or whatever. I think what we're trying to do though is enable people in the community that if you want to become more involved and you want to help spread the word or you want to help get people more engaged, this can be a venue for you to do that. So Deviant and that whole crew showed up and had the Lockpick Village. The Shmooconography thing was just a guy I knew who said, hey, I got this great idea, I want to do this. And we said, sure, we'll support you. There's a whole bunch of podcasters here who I unfortunately called bloggers the other day, and I escaped escaped with my life afterwards. Video podcasting is not blogging, just so we're all clear. Anyway, so they had a big meetup, and that was very successful. So I really appreciate the effort that everyone else is putting into the conference, even unbeknownst to us. So again, if you have ideas, please come forward with them. John, you had something?
No.
Oh, okay. So basically, it's pretty schwank coloring there. I don't think it's a cap F on that. So please send what you have to feedback@shmoocon.org. That's what it was. I mean, in an hour, that's what it took to run Shmoocon this year. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you want to come back next year. And I honestly hope that you can provide us feedback. And I'll say this again now. We want feedback for us for the conference, but the speakers also want feedback, because I tell you what, getting up there and speaking for the first time is tough. Getting up there speaking for the 10th time, maybe it's easy. Maybe you're sitting on your laurels and you need a little kick in the butt. Tell people what you think, what's going on, how you thought their talks went, what was interesting, what wasn't. It'll help us choose talks. It'll help the speakers get better, and maybe it'll spur you to think, hey, maybe I'll submit something and try to get on stage too and help educate folks. Got a question back? What?
Where does this go?
Registration.
Registration desk. Oh, yeah. So.
What's the single point of reporting?
Single point of reporting, yes. The single point of reporting is Todd or the registration desk. So please get all that there.
What's your long-term vision for Shmoocon?
I'd like to continue to be married to my wife. So we're going to start with that long-term vision. I don't know if she feels the same about me. You know, so that's it's a theological debate within the organization of how big we want to be. You know, we're not trying to be like any other con. We're trying to basically allow this to grow organically. But I know that people are also, you know, don't want it to get too damn big.
And we want it to be fun for us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and when it's no longer fun for us, we're not going to do it anymore. So, you know, that's one of our main goals then, is to keep it something that we want to do, because we don't want to feel obligated to have to run Shmoocon every year.
Right. And I think on top of that, there may even be other things we look at outside of Shmoocon that maybe we try to help the community in other ways, get other events going, and help other conferences. You know, the Not-A-Con folks are nodding vigorously. Go to Cleveland. Cleveland rocks. But I think that we would like to see other things happen outside of Shmoocon that allow you to get all this energy out so you don't feel like you have to come here every year. I mean, I would love to see a community build, continue to grow, that everyone feels like, hey, this is something I want to do, and maybe I won't go to Shmoocon because I'm going to go do this other thing instead.
I just wanted to mention, when you were saying about, you know, as long as it's still fun, we'll still do it. Regarding one of the questions earlier, we cleared out so fast because many of the people who were doing Hacker Halo, myself probably the most vocal, were like, dude, I don't want to be sitting here watching people drag each other. I want to be drinking right now. So that's, you know, that's why we were like, we were out of here at 9.
Right.
Could we get bars down here that paid, basically bars that we can buy beer or some kind of snacks or something?
Maybe. Those are really expensive to do.
That would be a shockingly large line item on our budget, actually, and
No,
that's
I'm not
what's
saying you guys.
No, but we still end up taking a hit on it.
Yeah.
It's weird. Once you put food and alcohol in play from the hotel, the equation shifts dramatically. So
oh my God.
We'll look into it. Yeah, yeah, you know firsthand. We'll look into it. Anyway.
If you're still staying at the hotel, look in your little book. It tells you about hospitality, and you know, breakfast would cost $300 for 10 people.
You know, it's tough. So anyway, the one thing that was weird, because they didn't have the big bar space upstairs this year like they did last year because of renovations. There wasn't a big congregation every night up there like there used to be. That will be back next year, so I think that'll kind of alleviate some of it. So anyway, here's the deal. I don't want to hold anybody. We got to get people eating, because we got the OLPC talk at 1:30.
And that one's going to rock.
And that's going to rock. So go to that. Go play Hacker Arcade. All that kind of stuff. Thanks for showing up.
I live in Ellicott City, so.
You know, I think this year we're going to do that. Last year we got so better on the ass of just trying to like have the video. Basically, take that whole rest of the background for people that, you know, want this work.
Refreshment. Sunglasses. But actually, you know, really, the best thing for you to do would be to send an email to feedback to the contact, because that way it goes someplace where someone won't forget it. Right now, you have to remember that we're all tired and we could forget anything. That's why I do.